Reid, Manchester. Success and happiness. It begins with your attitude each morning. So true. Will you fill your day with joy and light, or anger and frustration? Just like each of you, this evaluator makes that decision each day. And to make that decision easier, he starts with some meditation, yoga, and a bowl of delicious gluten-free hot rice cereal with hemp seed and flax.
Wow.
Whoa. Thank you for this introduction, Reid. This is wonderful. Great material.
Yeah, I'm going to use it next week.
What could be better than this very anti-American dish? Please welcome Reid, Manchester.
Scott was tasked this morning with a fact-finding report. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you're given that objective? What's about to happen? Monotony! Boredom! Information overload! But Scott doesn't play in those playgrounds. The speeches are never boring. They're never monotonous. They always have a great message. He began his speech with giving us a couple of facts. The 9%, 16%, or 12% as it was. And he engaged us, particularly, he engaged Fabio by asking him a question, which is excellent. We want to be able to engage the listeners in our audience. And focusing on one person, particularly in a group where you know everyone, is perfectly acceptable. If you don't know everybody, it's going to be a little tougher. He makes excellent use of pauses throughout his speech. As I've mentioned in previous evaluations of Scott, he's very soft-spoken. When he approaches the podium, he's careful and soft in his delivery. But that doesn't diminish the message that he delivers to us. He also repeats things, components of the speech that are important. The best in people. The best in people. A great way of driving home a very specific point that he wants us to remember, that he wants us to feel. He also reaches back into learnings from previous speeches and other manuals. He used alliteration by saying competence, commitment, and connectedness, the 3 C's in this case. And that's from speech number 4. It's really important as we speak to bring the learnings from all of our previous speeches into the current speech. And I think Scott does that extremely well. As for the objectives, he didn't overload us with statistics and facts. He gave us a couple of facts. He ensured that they were reputable by mentioning their sources, Gallup organization and such. He was also tasked with ensuring that he could well anticipate questions from the audience. So let's talk about the questions for a minute. My question, he answered, I think, extremely fluidly. Off the cuff, Scott can't be rivaled by anybody, really. When he speaks with authority. In fact, by the end of his speeches, I'm usually screaming in my mind, "Scott for president!" And I don't mean president of the club. They're almost rehearsed in their completeness. Gary's question, he cited the examples of the DMV, which brought humor into the speech. He had an excellent voice modulation. He didn't maintain a moderate, soft tone throughout his entire speech. He did modulate. He was also supposed to handle hostile questions, but unfortunately this crowd doesn't lend itself to hostile questions. So in conclusion, Scott, fantastic job on this speech, and I look forward to you running in the next election.